Donald Trump and Joe Biden, an America divided, and the future of our country under great uncertainty. Who will be the leader of our country for the next 4 years? My 2020 presidential election video, now. How's it going, everybody? This is Tabo Drabo. Hope you all are having another great day, and welcome back to another video. Now, for those who don't know, I usually try to keep away from politics, especially how sensitive of a topic that is, particularly with other people. However, as we have all seen this year, this election has been too important to sit out. So, for this video, with election week next week on November 3rd, I'm going to be talking about the 2020 US presidential election and my thoughts on it. And so for this video, I'm going to be comparing and contrasting the two candidates that are running for president, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the overall election and in my prediction, who I think is going to come out on top next week on November 3rd. Now, I know a lot of you are going to have differing opinions about what I'm going to say, and that's perfectly fine, but please, let's keep the discussion civil in the comments section. Obviously, I want to keep everything respectful so I can hear all of you guys and what you think about it, and more importantly, we need to show respect to each other. So I'm open to hearing all of your opinions, but please, let's be civil about it. Alright, so who are the candidates first off? Well, first off, for the Republican Party is the incumbent, the current US president who is running for re-election, Donald Trump. And he has been quite a controversial figure, per se. He has been one of the most disliked presidents in US history, but there is still another half of the country that likes him. So obviously he's done a lot of good things and quite a lot of bad things as well. But, you know, that's the part of all presidents, you know. You're not going to be perfect all the time, but I'll discuss more about that in a little bit. And on the challenging side, for the Democratic Party, it is Joe Biden, who is the former Vice President of the United States. He served there with President Barack Obama in 2009 and 2016, and he has also had a lot of time in Congress as well. He served as a U.S. Senator for almost 39 years up to this point, so he comes in with a lot of experience, but also some pitfalls as well. And obviously, there's a lot of taking sides here in this election, particularly with all the reaction that we have been seeing as well in the nation. And this is really one of the reasons why this election has been particularly crazy in general, because there's just a lot of division. There's a lot of division going on with who they're supporting in the country and what they stand for. So I'm going to be discussing a lot of that here in this video. So first, I'm going to compare and contrast Trump and Biden on some of the topics. There's quite a bit of them, but I'm not going to get into all of them because otherwise that would drag this video for very long. So I'm going to get to the ones that voters care about the most, and then we'll go from there regarding my opinions on them and who I think will win the election. So the first topic I want to talk about is healthcare, and this has been a really central message when it comes to the Democratic Party in this election. So for those that don't know, Joe Biden was the vice president when the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare, was passed in 2010. And there was quite a bit of consternation around that from some people, but over time it has grown more popular. And the goal of the ACA, which Biden and Obama passed, was that it was to help with getting more affordable health care for older citizens and other people that can't afford to get health care because of all the premiums and the costs and all that. President Trump, on the other hand, though, he and the GOP have been trying to strip it down. Recently, one of the courts ended up taking down the mandate for it earlier this year, and right now, as I stand, the GOP is trying to take down the ACA altogether. They have a Supreme Court case next week on November 10th, so we'll be hearing a little bit more about that. And when it comes to how the ACA will be replaced if it does get struck down, right now, Trump does not have one. And I'm saying that because over the last couple of years, Trump continues to say that they're going to have a health care plan in 2 weeks' time, and he said that multiple times, but every single time that has not come to pass. And at this point, I think it's safe to say that he really doesn't have one right now. So I really don't know how Trump can continue to go on with this as well, especially since he can't give a reason as to what his health care plan is. But obviously, when it comes to Biden, he wants to try to expand it. You know, he wants to try to make it more affordable for younger citizens as well. Obviously, he's given a lot of vague explanations on it as well, but he cares about the citizens, and obviously that's why it's important when it comes to the healthcare aspect. Next thing I want to talk about is the economy, and in my opinion, I think this may be the one bright spot of Trump's presidency right now. Obviously, before the coronavirus pandemic hit, Trump had almost record growth when it came to the economy. You know, obviously this was started under Obama and it continued under him. Stock markets nearly hit all-time highs. In fact, they hit all-time highs earlier this year, and it was an extremely low unemployment unemployment rate as well at the time, which was about 3.5-ish. But once the coronavirus pandemic hit and all the businesses started shutting down, there were a lot of people filing for unemployment, and obviously the unemployment rate now stands at 7.9%. And there's still nearly 800,000 people or more that are still filing for unemployment benefits every single week, which is not good when you're looking at the direction of the pandemic right now, and it could possibly get worse from there. On the other hand, he and the Republican Party did also pass the tax cut, which they also did for the wealthy. Obviously, it has benefited them a lot more, while at the same time it has ended up hurting the middle and the lower class as well. On the other hand, like I did say, this growth really started under Barack Obama, which Joe Biden was a part of as well. It was taking part after what was a huge Great Recession back in 2008 and early 2009. He and Obama were able to lead it out of it. And at the end of 2016, when he left the White House, it was pretty low at the time. It was almost like, under 5%, something like that. And obviously, his plan for the economy is to help the middle class. So his tax plan is obviously to do a lot more when it comes to adding more taxes to the wealthy, making them pay more, while at the same time helping the middle class when it comes to paying off of all the debt and all that as well. And the debt as well is actually really high as well. Over the last couple of years, it has nearly tripled to almost $1 trillion or more per year. It's really bad right now when it comes to the debt. But like I said, at least prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the economy was really Trump's bright spot. But unfortunately, you really can't say the same about now, though. Next thing I want to talk about is the COVID-19 pandemic, and this is where we start to really see the comparisons and contrasts start to come in. Obviously, as we all know, this pandemic really started to go into form in March. Several businesses started shutting down, and now we are entering the third peak of the coronavirus pandemic, where we are starting to see record amount of cases per day, and we're going to see the death rate start rising as well. Unfortunately, the response from the Trump administration has not been good. He has decided to pretend that this pandemic doesn't even exist. He keeps saying that we're around the corner when clearly we are not. And unfortunately, he's also been really tough right now when it comes to the companies that are trying to build a vaccine. He keeps saying that there's going to be a vaccine before Election Day. Obviously, that's not happening. Yeah, he said too bad. It is what it is. So clearly, Trump right now, along with one of his health advisors, Dr. Scott Atlas, they're trying to go with a herd immunity strategy, which clearly would not work in the United States. I mean, we've seen how that played out in Sweden, and that did not work out for them either. Biden, on the other hand, does have a plan when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic. Obviously, one of the things is that he would institute a nationwide mask mandate and also practice a little more on vaccine work. He wants to make sure that the health institutions are doing well enough where they can actually get a trusted vaccine out there, which obviously is not going to happen until around early or middle of 2021 next year. Again, there's a lot of vagueness in some of that stuff, but that is a plan that Biden has to counter that. Then there's climate change, and that has been one of the big topics when it comes to the future of our country. As we all know, by 2030, if there aren't enough protections to be able to stop the rise in climate change, the rise in the Earth temperature, we could be seeing disastrous consequences with our planet within the next few years or so. What is Trump's response? He has cut down on a lot of temporary protections for wildlife and has resulted in oil drilling and a whole lot of all that stuff. He has also pulled out the Paris Accord as well, which was supposed to meet a goal when it comes to stopping irreversible climate change, and that has been rather disastrous as well. And so he is a climate denier. Joe Biden, on the other hand, he is going to try to help with making environmental laws to make sure to protect the environment, particularly the forests and the national parks as well. He would re-enter the United States in the Paris Accord, and more importantly, he would work with other countries to be able to make sure that those emissions are reached to make sure that we don't have irreversible climate change in the next few years or so. Then there's racial injustice, which has been a huge topic that only sprouted earlier this year, and a lot of that has to do with the Black Lives Matter movement. When the George Floyd incident happened in May earlier this year, obviously there was a lot of support that took place for Black Lives Matter, but also a lot of controversy as well, particularly with some of the riots and the looting and all of that. But clearly, as we all know, all of that stuff is now taking place when it comes to the far right groups that are infiltrating these protests, unfortunately. And Trump's response when it comes to all of that is he is not in support of it. He does not like Black Lives Matter, and he keeps complaining how he thinks that, it's quite a bit of a problem when it comes to seeing all the looting. He thinks that Black Lives Matter is a contributor to all the riots and looting and all of that. And at times, he's even threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act as well. That has been quite controversial, to say the least. Biden, on the other hand, he has shown himself to be a supporter of Black Lives Matter. He has condemned all the looting that has been taking place and all of that. And also, he has promised that he would make sure all African Americans are treated equally. He also promised that there would be more work when it comes to police to make sure that fewer African Americans are killed by police. And he also wants to make sure that the racial gap that's between African Americans and other citizens in the United States is closed, pay-wise, along with society-wise, home-wise, and opportunities-wise as well. So then there's immigration. And this has been something that Trump has almost played quite a bit when it comes to his rallies. He keeps saying that, there are a lot of illegal immigrants coming into the country, and, his response is that he wants a big wall and that he wants to cut illegal immigration and refugees coming into the United States to a very small number. Problem is, only 1/4 of the wall, if I'm right in saying that the Texas border has been built, and obviously it has not stopped immigrants from trying to come into the country. Joe Biden, on the other hand, he has shown his support for immigrants, and one of those reasons is for DACA, which he and Obama passed during their term, which is helping nearly 800,000 people get temporary protections when it comes to finding employment and be able to go to school in the United States while trying to fill out their applications so they can become legal citizens in the United States. Trump, as we have seen, has tried to take that down, but he was unsuccessful at that, and obviously I expect the battle there to continue on from there. He's even tried to remove temporary protections for immigrants from other Latin American countries as well. The last thing I want to talk about for now is decency. Obviously, when it comes to comparing and contrasting these two, there's quite a bit to talk about there. As we have seen, President Trump has been known to be quite a hothead. He has done a lot of name calling. He has done a lot of tweet storming. He's also done a lot of very erratic behavior at his rallies as well. I mean, if you looked at his first debate with Joe Biden, you can tell that, he was not following the rules and was being rather disrespectful as well. And he also tested positive for COVID because of his ignorance to COVID-19. Unfortunately, even after recovering from COVID, he has still shown that he doesn't think it's really a serious illness. That's not the kind of decency you want to show when you're president of the United States. And I don't think Trump has really understood that. Joe Biden, on the other hand, yes, he does have his moments, he does have his jazz, and sometimes he does have the tendency to lose his temper a little bit when he meets with some people that are questioning him or really complaining about some of what he did, but he does have decency, and he does have quite a bit of character, and he is shown to have a lot of respect for his citizens, and he does a lot more to listen to them as well. And I think that's definitely something that you want to have, especially when you have served in the White House before. You want to be able to care for your fellow citizens. Trump is shown to only care for those that support him. If you're going to win re-election, you got to be able to go outside your base. And Trump has not shown that so far. So those are just some of the topics that I want to bring up here. Obviously, there's quite a bit more that we want to talk about, but obviously, it would drag this video for too long. So now I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the election overall. I think that the 2020 presidential election as a whole has been rather crazy. And when I was first born into this world in 1997, this was not the United States that I thought I was going to be a part of. I mean, there's just quite a bit of division that's taking place in our country as a whole. A lot of people are choosing to take one side, and a lot of people are choosing to take another side, and yeah, that's fine. But the problem is there's now a lot of insulting, there's a lot of name calling, and there's a lot of violence around a whole lot of people as well. Unfortunately, when it comes to some of these topics that I was talking about, like, COVID-19 and racial injustice and all of that, there's just been a lot of controversy regarding, who agrees with who, and that has been a very big problem here in the United States. And some people are accusing of each other of committing violence when, some of it may be true, some of it may not be the case. I'm not going to get into a part of that, but there's just so much division in our country right now. And, this is not where I want the United States to be right now, personally. and it has shown throughout the course of this election. Add to that with the situation with the racial injustice, along with Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation in the Supreme Court, and right now you have an environment that's just completely out of control in the United States. But there is a lot of hope. I do believe that we can come back from this, and I do believe that we can recover from all the issues that we have seen throughout the last couple of years, but it's going to take a lot of work when it comes to bringing everybody together. Right now, nobody's united, and unfortunately, that has been a major problem. That's the reason why we're seeing all the actions that we are seeing taking place right now in our country. And that's just not right. I don't want to see that. I prefer that everybody be united. I prefer that everybody respect their own opinions. And I think there's still a chance that we can do that. I believe that within the next few years, I believe that we can try to find a way to bring everybody together and to try to bring everybody back the way it was before Donald Trump came into the presidency, and to have a more normal environment than it was prior to 2016. I know it's going to take a lot of work to be able to do that, though, but I personally believe that the 2020 election has brought out a lot of those divisions when it comes to what we're seeing in this country as a whole. But I do believe that those issues can be solved. Now, whether that happens within the next year or so, I completely don't know, but I believe that at some point we will be back to normal at some point, and hopefully we don't have to deal with all the division and all the issues regarding who trusts each other, along with our respect for each other in the near future as well. And so finally, I'm going to be talking about my prediction. So obviously there was quite a bit when it comes to looking at each candidate to see which one is better, but when it comes to my prediction and who I think is going to come out on top in this presidential election, the choice was very easy for me. And in fact, I've already voted. As we all know, there's been a lot of mail-in voting and absentee voting as well, all because of this COVID-19 pandemic. We're seeing record waves of early voting, and I was a part of those. I did my voting through the mail, and I voted for Joe Biden and his vice presidential running mate Kamala Harris. In fact, I even voted straight blue all the way down the ticket. His policies do need a little bit of work, obviously. Some of them are still a little bit vague, and some of his opinions obviously are a little bit lacking in context, but I'm confident that he will work on them. But what really matters to me is the decency he shows. Yes, obviously he does have his moments, but he does have character. Joe Biden is somebody that cares for the citizens, and he cares for the future of our country. We've seen the exact opposite of Donald Trump. He acts like he's more interested in himself and caring more about his own interests. That's why you see him call with dictators and all of that, and that's just not the way to go when you're the leader of the free world. And unfortunately, I do fear that if Trump wins re-election, there is potential he's going to cause a lot more chaos in this country. And me personally, I don't think we as a country can see another 4 years of this. I don't think that would be the right way to go. I personally believe that Joe Biden can bring us out of that. I believe that he has what it takes, particularly with the experience that he has. Yes, not all of his experience is perfect, and he has had his issues as well, particularly with the issues with the crime bill in 1994, and also a lot of questions when it comes to his son, Hunter Biden, as well, on the corruption, and particularly with all this stuff in Burisma. But obviously the Wall Street Journal recently debunked that, so obviously we can put that to rest. I believe that Joe Biden has what it takes to bring our country back to normal, and more importantly, to see a united America, and an America that stands for its freedom and stands for everything that they believe in. That's why I'm voting for Joe Biden, because I believe that, he is the right man for this job. Now, if you had asked me 4 years ago when it came to my support, obviously it would have been Hillary Clinton, but I was a little wary of that because of some of the stuff, so I was not a very eccentric Hillary Clinton supporter. But this election, I'm all in for Joe Biden. I believe he is exactly the kind of candidate I'm looking for: decency and character, along with some of the policies wise. I believe come next week, he will be the 46th president of the United States of America. Now, to me, it does not matter who you support, Donald Trump or Joe Biden. All I care about is that you have the right to express your opinion, and that you share your voice by voting for who you think will be the president for the next 4 years and decide the future of our country in general. So a lot of states, unfortunately, are ending their in-person and mail-in ballot voting early on right now, and so the only thing that we have left up until this point is November 3rd, which is election day. So if you have not voted yet, I encourage you right now, bring all of your friends and go to the nearest election site and vote, because the future of our country country is very uncertain right now. There's a lot of crazy things that are happening in our country, and the last thing we want is for everything to fall apart. So you have the power to decide where we go the next few years. So do whatever you can to share your voice and make your decision on where you think this country goes from here. Alright, that's it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed it and enjoyed my prediction on who I think will win this election. If you'd like to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when my latest video is released. Also, be sure to comment below on future suggestions for all my videos, whether it's blogs, projects, or challenges. Be sure to leave them in the comments below. I'm always open to hearing them. And as always, follow me on my social media. All the links are in the description below. That's it for this video. Hope you all are enjoying a great day. Go out and vote on November 3rd if you haven't done so already. And as always, I hope to see you all again in another video. So long, everybody.